Hey guys, so today I'm gonna be talking about some Grubhub tips and tricks, and then first off, just to let you guys know, if you're not on Grubhub already, it's very very hard to get into it. I know some people that have waited over a year to even get into Grubhub, and they're still on the wait list. So I think it depends on the market too, but when I first signed up for it, they told me it was full too, but I kind of kept pressuring them. Like, I kind of like sweet talked them. And then within a week, I got accepted to them. So that was very nice. But, anyways, here's some tips and tricks for Grubhub. With number one, you have to know your region. So, most of the times, with your region. So with Grubhub, you have a region where you work. So let's say if you're in California, you can only work, like for me, I can only work South Bay, and then in another part, I can only work Huntington Park, or it's all broken down. They're very big regions, but I chose South Bay only because that's where I usually go to deliver, anyways. So you have to know your region because they are huge. So most of the time, what I do is, since my region is so huge, I cut it in half. The first half I always work on, and then the second half I rarely do orders unless they're very high paying orders, only because they're so far away. I'm talking about 8 to 10 miles away. So I'm not going to bother unless it's a very big order, or if it's very slow, and then it's not too bad. But you have to know your region. You have to know how far the restaurant is from the customer. And it can be a little bit tricky only because Grubhub maps kind of deceive you a little bit. Sometimes they look pretty close, but in actuality, they can be very far. And then on the other hand, sometimes they look pretty far and they're actually closer than what you think. Like, you might be thinking, oh, I'm going to drive 7 to 8 miles because it looks pretty far. And at the end, it's like 4 or 5 miles. So it can be a little bit tricky. So that's why you have to know, how, like, where your customers are, basically. So that's a little bit of trial and error. Like, you have to do, I would say, at least 50 deliveries, maybe even 100, to really know your area and to see where to go and not to go and what pay is worth it to you. So number two would be, since orders are usually taking longer than the estimated time that they give you, you have to let your customer know. So with Grubhub, most of the time the restaurants are pretty slow, only because when they offer you one of the offers, that's when the restaurant's getting the order too. So what tends to happen is, if you're close to the restaurant and you get there, let's say right when you got the order, then you're gonna have a long wait time because that's when the restaurant's getting it too, and they're probably not even preparing it yet. So you have to let your customer know sometimes that is gonna take longer than expected, because usually a lot of Grubhub, at least over here, a lot of Grubhub restaurants do take a very long time. So I remember one time, I think I had to wait 45 minutes, maybe even an hour for one order, only because the restaurant was so busy, and it was pretty hectic. Like people were waiting outside of the line and everything. I only took it because it was very worth it. Like that hour that I waited, it was worth it. I was okay. I watched my YouTube. I watched everything. Like, I was just wasting time. The only reason I didn't do multi-apping at that time is because that restaurant was pretty hidden. So it was a little bit hard to be like, what if they, end a little bit earlier or everything. So I was just like, okay, I'm just going to stay here. And like I said, the pay was worth it. So I definitely stayed. But just let your customer know sometimes, because they can take a long time. With that order, I did let my customer know, hey, it's going to take this amount of time because this restaurant is really busy, and they understood it. So it's okay. Like, as long as the food is fresh, they will understand. So number three would be friendly with the restaurants. So, usually you have to be friendly with the customers, clearly, all the time. But also you have to be very friendly with the restaurants too, because they get to choose the order where yours is going to get done by. So what I mean by that is, if you're really mean to them, or if you're having an attitude with them because they're taking too long, next time, or that time, they can be like, well, we're just gonna put them on the back burner. Like, we don't need to hurry up. Like, that person's on our time. We don't need to do anything for them. So they'll put you on the back burner. But if you're nice to them, if you understand, like, sometimes restaurants can take a little bit longer, But if you're really understanding, and then they see that, they might try to make your food even faster because you're being you're yeah, you're being very good to them. So be good to them, be nice, be understanding, and don't be don't get an attitude with them. Don't do that. So number four would be set a minimum. It's just like DoorDash. To me, you have to set a minimum of what Grubhub you'll take. Because to be honest, the base pay is a little bit low for Grubhub. So for the most part, you'll be working mostly because of tips. So to me, most of the time, the only Grubhubs I'll take is if they definitely have to be over $8 no matter what, even 10 sometimes, and the most I'll go for those $10 is 5 miles. So this is all market dependent too, because Grubhub can be very good at some places and very bad in some. In my market, everything is pretty good because I'm in Los Angeles, so we have a lot of people and a lot of people order out. So I can wait for the bigger orders because with Grubhub they tend to tip really good because of the restaurants that they're partnered with. So you have to set a minimum. Like I said, mine is $8 to $10. It all depends on your market, but do set a minimum. Don't take everything because they have a lot of low ball offers too. Like I think the lowest I've seen was $3.50, which is not worth it. So just remember, take what you think is worth it. Set a minimum for yourself, and go with that. Number five would be, it's good to multi-app with Grubhub. So, like I talked about in tip number two, since their orders do take a very long time, most of the time, then it's very good to multi-app. So, if you know the restaurant and they take a very long time, or if they're busy during the weekends or whichever day you're working, then it's a good time to open up your DoorDash, your Uber Eats, your Postmates, or whatever else you use, or whatever else you're signed up with, to use it. Because let's say it's a 30-minute wait time. If, at least in my market, I can't tell where I'm going with the customer when it comes to Uber Eats, so I won't do Uber Eats. But I know in some places, Uber does tell you how far the customer is and where the restaurant is. So it'll be beneficial if if it's a very close order, and then you can just drop it off really quick and then come back to your Grubhub order, and just pick it up, and it'll be ready, and then you'll make extra money while instead of just waiting for the Grubhub order and just not doing anything for the extended period of time. And then I like doing it with DoorDash only because DoorDash does pay more, and it tells you the total miles that you're going. So you'll be able to time yourself a little bit better. Like, okay, so it might take me 10 minutes to get to the restaurant, another 10 to get to the customer, and I'm 5 minutes away from the customer to my Grubhub. I'll be able to make it if, the wait time's 30 minutes, 35 minutes. So you have to know your timing. You have to know that you can do it, and don't go too far away, because then you'll be delayed, and then the Grubhub order might get cold, and then the customer won't be too happy about it. So just know how to multi-app with it. It's a little bit of trial and error too. It can be a little bit stressful, but it's worth it. It definitely does help your per hour go up if you do multi-app. You don't have to do it, but it's very good to do it, at least with Grubhub. Number 6 would be, don't deliver out of your region. So, like I said, when it comes to Grubhub, they have very big regions, but what they tend to do is sometimes they'll give you a very long distance order that'll take you out of your region, and it's just not worth it. So, like I said, when it comes to at least the region that I work, it's probably in total, the region is probably maybe 25 miles. It's very large. So sometimes they try to make me go to the airport. Sometimes they try to make me go close to my house. And my house is about 12 minutes away from my Grubhub region. 12 miles, I'm sorry. So it's just not worth it at all. Like, don't go out of your region unless you're getting like a monster order that you think is worth it. Like, if you're going to go out of your region, you're going to go at least 20 miles. So at that point, you have to know what you think is worth it for those 20 miles or whatever distance it's going to be. Because remember, you have to come back to your region. So I wouldn't do it. Like it'll be very hard if you go out of your region. And number 7 is once you start getting Grubhub and you kind of get the hang of it, you'll start to notice which restaurants will be a little bit more busy and which ones pay out more. So just like any other one, fast food places, they usually don't pay as much as the regular restaurants or the fancier restaurants. At least over here where I work, there's a lot of fancy restaurants or restaurants that have very high order amounts when it comes to their food is very expensive basically. Like, an entree might be $12, $15. So, if it's a family and there's 5 of them, if it's 5 each, 15 each, and it's 5 of them, that's $75 plus, whatever tip you're going to get. And then whatever tip you're going to get is from the $75. And if you're lucky, you'll get, $15 tip, $20 tip. Even a $10 tip is really good. So you have to know which restaurants kind of tip a little bit better so you can get closer to them. So you don't have to go too far and not do too many fast food places. Like the only time I really do fast food is if it's slow or if it's late at night where, most of those restaurants are already closed and then they give you a certain amount of tips and then, it's just worth it. Remember, with Grubhub, they tell you straight up how much you're making. They don't tell you the miles, but they do tell you how much you're making. So, yeah, those are my 7 tips for Grubhub. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, remember to give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and thank you guys.